All right, we are live, taking Grey Goose to one of our favorite spots. This is a local forest preserve. All that storming yesterday has cooled things down a bit. So, I'm gonna treat Goose to some time at the park. But I wanna, while we're walking, I wanna discuss something I see a lot. I see it especially in like the balanced training communities. But I see it like some of the Facebook groups I'm in. I see this all the time. And it's this notion that training never stops. And I could not disagree more with this sentiment or this proposition or this belief. Because now, if you're new to my channel, or even if you've been to my channel for a while, you may have heard me make a distinction between training and these social dynamics at play between you and your dog. Behavioral issues, they're in a different realm than what is traditionally considered training. Right? To me, training is skill-based, but it has nothing to do with shaping the perception your dog has of you or its relationship to you. It has nothing to do with that. You can traditionally train, or what would be referred to as building skills, what people think is obedience, the sit, stay, come, down, whatever. You could do that to your blue in the face, but that does not mean you're spinning your wheels, in my opinion, because let's apply this logic to anything else in life, right? Imagine you get a job and your boss, you kept fucking up the job, and your boss had to keep retraining you. Maybe you had to get written up, and you're like, hey, we got to go for retraining. Imagine that sentiment in the workplace. Training never stopped, but you would get fired so fast. Hey, your boss would be like, is this motherfucker stupid? Or it's like, what is it about this person that they just don't want to do this job? What is going on here? The training should stop at some point. You should understand how to do the job. Your boss shouldn't have to hold your hand, right? At some point, you build the skills and you perform. Well, if you believe that training never stops with your dog, you're putting all of your attention on the wrong place or in the wrong area. You may be solely focusing on the sit, stay, calm down, all this obedience. You may believe you have to do these daily training sessions, till your dog dies. I got to do 30 minutes a day, every day. We got to drill this stuff over and over and over and over again. And I'm here to tell you, this is just not fucking true. None of the dogs I've ever lived with that have been mine have I ever approached things in that way. And has that ever been true for you? If you are doing things correctly and you are addressing things on a social level, you should reach a point where you don't have to do anything anymore. There may be little moments where maybe you're in a new situation with your dog, or it's a specific circumstance that you don't encounter a lot, that maybe you have to address your dog, right? But your dog should listen, get the message, and you should be able to move on. You should reach a point where life is easy. Because one of the things that I teach is that rules and boundaries which are consistently enforced become expectations. When you build expectations in your dog and your dog perceives you the correct way, you don't need this whole idea of training never stops. It should not even exist, right? Now, you can even apply that to your interpersonal relationships, right? Now, this would be more of a social thing, but imagine you have a friend or a significant other or whatever, and you're constantly having to tell them about a boundary of yours, and that person keeps crossing that boundary or violating that boundary, right? Well, if you are a person of high self-esteem, you wouldn't tolerate that very long. Like for me, if I say something that I don't like and that person can't respect it, well, I'm gone. So imagine applying that to your dog. You're setting a boundary over and over and over again. Your dog does not respect it. Well, that doesn't mean that you need to keep training the dog. That means that the dog does not respect you the way it should. That's what's missing. And as I've stated multiple times on this channel, I have never trained Grey Goose. I didn't say traditionally train my previous two dogs, right? That's not my focus. And to me, it's irrelevant, because you build the right dynamic, as I've said in previous lives. The obedience comes with it. You don't have to do any of that. It's a byproduct of the respect you've built from dog to human. But you should respect your dog too. It's mutual. Human respects dog. Dog respects human. We learn to live or coexist harmoniously, right? But I mean, I guess maybe someone can explain it to you. What do you mean by this idea that training never stops, right? Because it just doesn't make sense to me. Right, I've never, as difficult as a dog as Bruno was, we eventually reached a place where things clicked. And once you reach that place, the work is done. You have to really fuck up, and you have to really be inconsistent once you reach that place for things to fall apart. Once you've established those dynamics correctly, you've built that solid relationship. I mean, you really got to show a lot of weakness. You really have to be inconsistent from there on to get your dog for that dynamic to flip. Because once you get there, life should be easy. You shouldn't have any problems anymore. The work should be done. So the idea that you have to daily train your dog means that something is missing there. You're not. There are things you're missing. There's some gaps that need to be filled. There's some holes in your understanding. Your focus is not in the right place. Right. So I just want to challenge that idea. This idea that training never stops. I see this sentiment frequently, actually. As I said, mostly in the balance training community. I see it a lot with, I don't know, this idea that you have to, every day it's like a grind. We gotta go train, and I just don't understand it. I truly don't get it. To me, you're spinning your wheels. It's like I said, it's the same idea as, if you have a child. If you have to keep drilling the same lesson into that child or establish that same boundary over and over again, it means there's some respect there that's missing, right? But again, that is a social thing. That is not a, quote, training idea. But, you know, as you navigate the dog world, you know, you see a lot of really interesting ideas. You know, it could be a difficult place to navigate. You know, you get this group over here saying one thing and this group over here saying the complete opposite, and nobody can agree on anything. And yet, you know, I saw a I see shit like this all the time where one of these Facebook groups, I don't know if any of you ever experienced any of these dog related Facebook groups. They are wild. It is a wild place to be. But you see some of these spam posts sometime, and this to me it came across as like a spam post where this person was trying to, I mean, it was a really long post, but it was really selling this idea that if your dog's behavior switches instantly, it's because they were microchipped. it's like, oh my God. Okay. Whatever you say, you know, all three of my dogs are microchipped. I never activated any of them. You know, like when you adopt a dog from the Humane Society, they automatically chip them. But you have to go to, I think, Animal Control and activate them. I never did. Goose has a chip. I never activated it. We don't need that shit. But to try to sell people on the idea that if your dog's behavior changes, it's because of that fucking microchip. But and then you go to the comments and people are believing it. That's why, like, I just, you know, I still pop into those groups every now and then just because it's so fucking wild, but I don't participate much anymore. You know, there's a lot of hate and vitriol, and man, it's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. This, you know, actually, I made a video. I never posted it, but I may as well talk about it, right? And that's, I see the dog world it reminds me a lot of politics, right? You know, you have your two major parties, balanced and force-free. And they're always fighting, but they can't agree on nothing. They're calling each other names and saying the other, you know, they can never give credit to one another, and they're insisting that the other party's wrong, just like, say, the two, you know, Republicans, Democrats, whatever. And I'm apolitical, by the way. I don't, fuck both parties. I don't, you know, they all serve the same interests from what I can tell. But the dog world is no different. And then you have these figures within each group where they're, you know, they're constantly attacking the other side, and it's like nobody, you know, seeks common ground. You can still disagree with somebody and find some kind of common ground. It doesn't have to be this mudslinging contest. If you're watching the debates on my channel, I've debated a couple of positive reinforcement people. You know, I didn't seek to be disrespectful to those people. We disagree on things, but you should be able to battle these things out in a healthy way. But it's just like politics in that, you know, people buy into these ideas, and yet it's funny that the opposing party that they hate so much, when they do something, it's quick to call it out, but when their own side does the same shit, they don't want to say nothing, you know. It's like the same mindset, but on opposite ends of the spectrum. I see that in the dog world too. It's like y'all think the same way, and yet you're at each other's throats calling each other out. But you know, when your side does something that's really no different, you know, it's like crickets. You know, and then of course you have the Messiah figures. Y'all know who I'm talking about, the Messiah figures, yeah. The chosen ones. The chosen ones, yeah. Well, we have all the answers. We will lead you. Everybody else is wrong. We have one little minor disagreement. Oh my God, fuck that boy. They're totally wrong. Fuck that guy. It's like, really? Really? You never disagreed with a friend over anything? You never disagreed with you know, anybody in your life over anything? Oh, that means you're opposite sides now? How does that work? It's fucking wild to me, man. But the one thing I can agree on is that both of these parties, the balance force free, they sell this idea that training is a learning-based exercise. Now, what's interesting is the way I see training is being skill-based. Yeah, to me that is a learning-based exercise. You are teaching the dog specific skills, right? Doesn't have anything to do with the behavior of the dog. You're just teaching skills. That is a learning endeavor. But when we have behavior problems, we address things on a social level. That has nothing to do with training. Now, I always give the example of, like, you could train your dog to sit and stay all you want, but you put a bowl of food down near that dog and you go near it and it growls at you. Well, what good is the sit and the stay? Or you tell that dog to stay and its state of mind is it's overly anxious, it's stressed, it every 4 seconds it wants to get up and move. What good is the stay? What is the point of the stay? Let's address the state of mind. But very few people put focus on the state of mind, which is the most important part. And this is why I think we have these ideas of, like, training never stops. Is, well, you're putting your focus on the wrong thing. State of mind is everything, because that is where behavior stems from. You got guys like Robert who want to say that, yeah, and this, it really blows my mind that after 21 books, Skinner wrote the best definition of behavior we got is an organism's response to an environmental stimulus. Really, that's it? That's the best we got. It's very superficial. It's like, if you ask me, like, a behavior is an action that stems from the currently held state of mind of said, human, dog, whatever, creature. Like, you're not going to behave the same way if you're angry as when you're calm and at peace. You're not going to behave the same way when you're frustrated as when you are happy. You're not going to behave the same way when you're excited as when you are depressed, right? So the state of mind is the root of everything. This is why focusing on stability, providing structure, bringing your dog to a calm state of mind is the root. You got to do that first, right? That you can influence the dog to a much higher level when the dog is calm, right? Yeah, think about it. Like, when you're in a frantic or panicky state, or you're stressed or anxious, it's really hard. You might have a really hard time hearing people when they're trying to talk to you, because all you can focus on is how you're feeling at that moment, right? But if you can find a way to calm down and relax, and maybe you need somebody to help you do that, but once you reach that state, you're a lot more likely to listen, because now you're at peace. You're like, everything's good, right? It's no different with your dog, but those are leadership skills, right? Being able to put your dog, knowing how to put your dog in a calm, relaxed state, that is a leadership skill, right? You have to understand how to communicate. How do I implement structure? How do I implement a boundary the correct way? What role do I play in all this? Right? Those aren't learning-based things, right? This is a social phenomenon. This is a communication-based thing. This is a relational thing, right? Just like you're not going to. There's certain things you might seek from your friend that you're not going to seek from an acquaintance, or your boss, or the two different types of relationships. They serve two different purposes, different sets of needs. And sometimes when you cross those lines, things get messy, right? So that's why it's a good idea to, be consistent about the expectations you've established with different people in your life. But the root of everything, as I said before, with your dog is expectations. What expectations have you built? If you're not consistent from day to day in the rules and boundaries that you enforce, in the way that you communicate, in the energy that you project, the routine you've established, the structure you provide, well, then what kind of expectations? Your dog will never understand what the expectations are, because day to day, it's fucking different. The goal is to provide a high level of clarity to your dog, where they know what to expect every day, and they know what you expect of them every day. They know that you play that same role every day, therefore they play the same role every day. This is the root. This is what cooperation is to me. Not this 50-50 bullshit. Cooperation is people play their established roles to avoid conflict. And when you go to work, as I've said, everybody plays a role. The purpose is to avoid conflict and to create efficiency to get a particular job done. If there was multiple bosses with all the same level of authority, you would have conflict, because now people are fighting. Because people are battling for control. This is why 50-50 does not work. It's a foolish endeavor. It's pie in the sky bullshit. Right? Somebody has to be running the show. And if you want your dog at the calmest, most relaxed space, then your dog must always understand that you run the show. Therefore, your dog doesn't feel the need to be in control. And if you have a dog who's not necessarily predisposed to adopting the leadership position, it creates a lot of stress and anxiety in the dog. Imagine being a dog trying to navigate or trying to lead a human when the human is acting on its own initiative, but the dog believes, and the dog can't talk to you, right? Or imagine seeing the world through the dog's eyes, and imagine having to be responsible for a human or a group of humans. That would probably cause, this to me is the root of separation anxiety. The dog believes it has to manage the group, and the group walks out the front door, and maybe the dog's in a cage. Yeah, that's going to create some fucking panic and frustration. But when the dog is at ease, understands that I don't have to worry about these people. I can just chill out and go to sleep, be at home, be at peace, and they'll come back. Right? So the dog's not in the driver's seat. And that's where you want it, right? Real cooperation comes from properly established power dynamics. Your dog doesn't want all that power, right? And this is, to me, where a lot of aggression comes from. That dog now is in the role of being the disciplinarian. And so that dog is biting people it lives with, because that is how dogs discipline one another. And a real balanced dog should be able to discipline another dog without biting it. So if you have a dog that's reached a level where it's actually biting you, then things are really, really off the rails. It's bad enough if you have a dog that disciplines you by snapping at you. That's typically how it goes. But when you have a dog that's actively biting you, then you have fucked up long ago. Now, listen, sometimes you adopt a dog and that's just that they came like that. Don't be blaming anybody if that was the case. It's not really, they didn't do anything in that situation, But then it's like, how do we move forward with that, right? I can't blame anybody for adopting a dog, and it's like that's the dog you end up taking home. Like, that's a shitty position to be in. I get it. Been there. Hey, Bruno was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, but it's not an easy road. It is not an easy road. That's why, though, in other videos you heard me ask, if you're seeking to adopt a dog, what is the motivation? Have you asked yourself that question? What are you trying to? What is the purpose? And if you're doing it to help the dog, and maybe you take home a dog that has some issues like that, you're going to be a lot more inclined to try to work through it or figure it out. Not saying you should or you have to, but Like when I adopted Kaylee and Bruno, it was, to me, that was a life contract. As soon as I signed that, I said, nah, ain't no going back here. You know, no going back. And we didn't. We saw it through. 13 years. Saw that through. Talk about learning some life lessons. Yeah. But, as I discussed in the beginning of the video, I don't know how many new people are tuning in here, but, you know, this idea that the training never stops. I don't know, I don't understand where this idea came from, but again, if you believe that training is, quote, a learning-based endeavor, which building skills in a dog is, but if you believe that behavioral issues is a training thing, and you focus on obedience in that sense, then yeah, the training will never stop because you're not focusing on the right thing. Your attention is misplaced. You should reach a point with your dog where you have established things correctly in a holistic way, and where you've created harmony. The work is done. Now, day to day, it's pretty much the same shit. You don't have to do these daily trainings. The training should stop. If you find yourself in a position where it never stops, you can't get the tools off the dog, this problem is like a daily grind that keeps happening, well, then there's something missing. Something missing in your approach, your understanding, your implementation, right? Because the work should stop at some point, right? You know, I don't know if you watched any of my previous live streams, like when Grizzy was here. Grizzy's at that stage where the work is done, you know, and the work is always between dog and owner. The work is done with Grizz. And now, you know, people like to misrepresent what I say when I talk about getting a dog off leash quickly. That's not, I've never said that. There's a whole process to getting a dog off leash quickly. Like Grizz is like a little over a year old, I think, maybe just shy of a year. We're just now getting him off leash. This is new to him. But he's at that level now where he's earned that we can do that. Right? The work is done. There's no more work to do with Grizzy. And I would say I'd failed at my job if their owners came to me and said, Kevin, this problem is still happening, or this problem keeps happening, or I told them, hey, the training never stops. Well, in my opinion, I failed. I would have sold them a bill of goods, in my opinion. You know, when you have clients, the work most certainly should stop at some point, right? You should be able to get the relationship built between that dog and that owner. You reach a point where, like, I want to phase myself out as quickly as possible. I give those owners the tools, the understanding, the strategy. We work through all the kinks. We come out on the other side where it's like, hey, life is good now. We don't have to keep working on this same fucking thing every day, or new issues are popping up. It shouldn't be like that. If you have new problems popping up, especially if you're raising a puppy and the puppy's now an adult and you have new issues popping up, you fucked up somewhere along the way. Like if you get a puppy and you raise it to adulthood, you should not have any issues. If you do things correctly, you should have no issues. And you should not have to keep training the dog every day. You shouldn't need to have these fucking trainings. You shouldn't need to do any of that. Right, and that's what I wish for all my clients. Grizzy's just got a good relationship with his owners, got a good relationship with Grizz. Grizz is just a great example of what the final product looks like. You should be able to show a final product, right? And that final product should really not look much different than your own dog. You know, with the exception of the different personalities being expressed in those dogs, right? They're all different personalities. But like I imagine if a client called me and I said, well, This is a problem you're gonna have to live with the rest of your life, and we're gonna have to do this every day till that dog dies. Well, then I fucked up. And to me, what better way? What, you know, it's like, talk about being needed, or, you know, I don't know. I just don't think things should be that way. It's like these boarding trains that are like months long. Like, why the hell do you need a dog for 3 months? For what? Seriously, and there are people that only offer like multi-month boarding trains, and that just blows my fucking mind. Imagine you're sending your dog off, somebody you know, for 3 months. You know, pay him several $1,000s. You can count me out. Right, Goose? You can count me the fuck out. Okay. What you think, girly? I don't like your breathing. Should we go back to the car? We're on the way back anyway. Excuse me, guys. Had to sneeze. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Hope everybody's doing well. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're new to the channel, I'm Kevin. I'm not a dog trainer. I talk about social dynamics. We resolve behavioral issues between dog and owner, which is based in the relationship dynamic, not training. One thing I want to point out, through this entire walk, have I said a fucking word to Goose? No, I haven't. I don't need to. Again, these ideas of training, like, I don't need to instill commands in her. I've never done any of that shit. I don't have to. You should not have to do that. You can do that if you'd like. But to me, that's like icing on the cake. Right? You want to build skills in the dog, establish the foundation correctly first. Build a solid foundation. And then if you want to build skills on top of that, have at it. Go right ahead. But to make that your starting point, I think is seriously flawed. You know, and this is why sometimes too, or a perfect example is, you know, I can't tell you how many people have called me and they said, oh, they were thinking about a board and train, or they did a board and train. And they said either there's one of three things. Dog came back no different, dog came back worse, or they actually found a good individual. But the problem is that dog now has a great relationship with the person they spent however many weeks or months with. Hey, no, Goose, I don't want you in the weeds. Come here. Good girl. But the second that dog goes home, and they don't do any follow-up work with the owners, and then the dog does not behave the same for the owner as it does for the person that it's spent all that time with. And I've heard, the dog listens great for the guy who trained it, or the guy who worked with it, whatever. Doesn't listen to me though. Well, I hate to say it, but you just wasted a lot of time and money. Now, a good board and train though, they will do follow up with the owner, right? So, just to put that out there, I'm not saying I'm not saying that there aren't any good board and trains. You know, there are good ones out there. But I've had people tell me that they do prefer the, you know, in-home, private. I don't have to send my dog off anywhere. You know, and it's cheaper. But this is just what I hear from people who call me, you know. Or same with like I can't tell you how many people have called me. Oh, we went to Petco training or PetSmart training, and thought it was useless. It's like, dog didn't I was asking, oh, what do you think it benefited you? No, I don't think it really helped. It's like we got Park District people coming. I always say yeah, and I'll explain to you why it didn't help. I don't know what, it's just me too. I always think of Zach George. Every time they say we did Petco classes, I think of Zach George and that white polo with the green Petco logo, you know. I can't help it, This is where he came from. All right, we let this car pass. Park this way. Okay. But no, this to me is like this is the goal. I want this for every client that I get, right? Anybody who even watches me, like this, if you can take what I put out in the videos and you can implement it and figure it out, then hey, what I'm putting out there is of some benefit to somebody. So then I'm doing my job. No, Goose. Hey, no, we're not gonna go out there. Not today. Too many bugs out there today. We really like. There's a trail. There's all these trails in these woods here. This is a beautiful, beautiful forest, and there's all these trails in. And we usually go, but when it's in the middle of summer and everything's grown, we don't go in there because it's just ticks, fleas, whatever. So we just stay on the main trail. But in the fall or winter, like I love coming here, especially when the leaves are falling and the paths are clear. It's a little chilly. Man, I love it out here when it snows. Man, it's beautiful out here. Oh yeah, well, if the Frozen Lake videos, me and Goose did, that was at a different park. But there is a lake in the back that does freeze. We did walk over that too. We just didn't record that. But that was a lot of fun. Yeah, we'll do that again this year. But something I did with my previous two dogs too is we went. I was always looking for new spots to take them. I was always looking for new forest preserves. It's good to, give your dog some adventure, right? Take them to new places. Let them experience some new things, smell some new things. It's a great thing to do. I mean, routine is good, but make going to new places part of the routine. You'll find some hidden gems in your area if you do that. Yeah, and you'll find some favorite spots that you didn't even know existed. You just do a little Googling, and a lot of good parks and forest preserves you might not even be aware of in your area. They're a lot of fun to go to. Anybody watching any questions, feel free to ask. We are almost done though. I think Goose, I don't think she can handle too much more. Car is right up there. Been out here about 40 minutes. Do appreciate everybody for showing up. And I don't know, I'm enjoying doing these live streams. Seems like people are receptive to them. I do wish we had multiple dogs though. That would be nice. Don't have any though. It is what it is. Just have to settle for you, Goose. That's all right. That's all right with me. That's all right with me. You already have a laundry list of people that want to steal you from me. I don't blame them. Right, girl? We don't blame them. Yeah, we got the tennis courts over here. Yeah. All right, well. Cars are up there. What you think, girl? You want to walk around? You want to go the long way? All right, let's go the long way. Yeah. Anyway, if anybody new to the channel, did a live stream yesterday, really loved it. Took Goose to our favorite pet store, so everybody can see what that looks like, you know, off leash. Took Goose and Grizz off leash the day before that. You can see what that looks like. Cause I don't know, I don't really see, thing I love about the live stream is that it's just, you know, you can't hide nothing. No editing, no glitz and glamour. There's no, you know, whatever happens, happens. It's like, unless you shut down the stream, it's like, it's there, you know? So, you know, what you see is what you get. And I think, you know, that's something I wish more people would promote. What you see is what you get. There's no hidden strings, no bullshit. You know, this is what we do every day. Right, Goose? We do this every day. Looks like we got a party going on over here. It's time for the party. Actually, this is the my martial art, my MMA gym. They're having their yearly like cookout. We do it right here at this pavilion. August 2nd. It's coming up in a week here. Yeah. It'll be a lot of fun. I don't know. Maybe I'll bring you, Goose. What do you think? You want to come to that? That'd be fun. Yeah, maybe I'll bring you to that. All right, guys. I think we're going to head back to the car. Appreciate everybody showing up. It's a great walk and talk. We'll definitely do more of these in the future. I was hoping there'd be more people here, more dogs, you know, but you know, it is what it is. If it weren't as humid, we probably would have gone somewhere else where there, you know, it's likely to be more dogs, but you know, Goose just can't handle it. So, right, girl? We'll see what it's like tomorrow. Maybe I'll take you to Whalen Lake tomorrow, and then maybe we'll run into some dogs and whatnot. Although they do have a dog park at Whalen Lake. That is one thing. We like to walk around the dog park. You know, I don't have a permit to get in, so we like to walk around the perimeter. You know. Yeah, dog. Yeah, the kid saw you, Goose. The doggy. Yeah. All right, guys. Appreciate you showing up. I think we're going to cut it off here. Take Goose home, get her something to eat. Everybody have a wonderful day. We will see you soon.